was not meant to happen. This could not happen. This is happening.
Welcome to another exciting episode. The Coach's Son parks the bus. I mean, it doesn't get bigger. Current A-League superstar goalkeeper Tom Heward-Belle. Welcome to the Coach's Son parks the bus.
Nah, thanks guys. Really appreciate you guys having me on. Obviously my first podcast, we spoke earlier, and apparently I'm the first goalkeeper on the pod, so honoured in another respect as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. Hey, we won't hold it against you, don't worry, but there'll be a few goalkeeper related questions coming your way.
Go for it.
But I suppose at the start of the interview and podcast we'd like to do, we'd like to get a bit of a background of who you are, your footballing journey, where it started from, and how you got to where you are.
Yeah, I played football obviously starting from 5-6 years old. I actually didn't start goalkeeping until I was about 13, which for most goalkeepers that I've played with is quite late to decide to take up the position. But I was naturally a right winger when I was a lot younger, and I really enjoyed just whipping balls in like Bexy and just trying to get around the boys. My first representative team was Manly United, so I played a season there in goals. Then I moved on to Blacktown City, and I was there for two seasons, and then from there I went to Wanderers in the A-League. So I moved straight from Blacktown to Wanderers, and then obviously the rest is sort of just been in the A-League and hovering through a few clubs like that. So
well, man, that's awesome. So you'd sort of mentioned that you were started as a right winger. What was there something that triggered that, or that the move to goalkeeper? Because as you just mentioned, most kids sort of starting off, or teenagers, you want to score the goals, and obviously in the position you were playing, you probably did a couple. What was the sort of transition to jump into the back line there and back into goals?
Yeah, 100%. No, I was probably missing some context there, but basically, I guess I wanted to play representative football at, as I said, probably about 13 years old. That's when all my friends started to trial in the New South Wales NPL, and I had played a little bit in goals. Obviously, no one at the ages of 8 to 12 really took the position on week to week, and I had my stint in there and I did quite well. I played basketball and cricket and sort of was very hands-on when I was a lot younger, and I sort of took the position on, and my dad sort of just pulled me aside before those rep trials, and he said, look, to be honest, if you want to give yourself the best chance of signing here, you should give goalkeeping a go, like see how it goes. And I just wanted to play representative football so that I trusted him in that moment, and I trialed and I made it in, and then from that moment on, I just sort of never really looked back.
Were you a bit hesitant when he told you to go for goalkeeper?
Did you have any gloves with you? Did you have any goalkeeper gloves?
I did.
No gloves?
No, 100%. So yeah, I know it sounds a little bit out of the blue, but basically my dad he prepared me well enough in the weeks leading up to that trial, and he was super supportive the whole way. Like, he obviously got me my first pair of gloves. He helped me just sort of take me to the park, knocking balls at me and stuff like that. And then obviously technically I got a little bit more proficient as I took the position on and trained a lot more specifically in that position. But in the beginning I was very raw, and just my main objective was just to keep the ball out of the net. Yeah.
I love that. The fact that you obviously want to progress in your footballing career, and you love football so much that you're willing to do whatever it takes. And then also, including change of position as well. I know you mentioned you touched on, like, you played a bit of cricket, a bit of basketball as well. Because I remember Bozza, he mentioned on TV years ago saying that Australia will always have decent goalkeepers because we do grow up playing a different variety of hands-on sports, such as your cricket, your basketballs, even rugby league sometimes as well. Do you really think that helped you as a goalkeeper to get that, hand-eye coordination, whatever you might need as a goalkeeper now?
Yeah, 100%. I think those sports sort of dialed me into being proficient of obviously catching the ball and getting my body behind the ball, just little things like that you pick up on in those sports. And so I think that's what I mean when I transitioned into goalkeeping. It sort of came naturally, those sort of aspects of the game. Whereas, if you only ever played football your whole upbringing, maybe it's something that doesn't come so naturally. But yeah, definitely. I think like obviously basketball, helps in that regard, and there's a lot of similarities from basketball into my position. And so, yeah, I guess I grew up loving those two sports a lot. I still watch a lot of NBA. I love basketball. I wish, if I had my time again, not slating football, but I might have gone the basketball route. But yeah, I think that definitely helped.
Yeah, I mean, with the basketball being so big in the NBA, you probably don't want to listen back to one of our few of our first podcasts that we had, where more me ranting about American sports and not really like American sports. But going to another continent, I know when you were younger, you did spend a bit of time, in England and also in Belgium. For your development and obviously learning about the game, like what did you take over there, and what were some things that you saw that they were doing over in those countries in Europe that we could probably do here as well that we don't do enough of?
Yeah, I think it was really interesting for me at such a young age to be exposed to that, and I'm really fortunate that my dad sort of gave me that opportunity to be able to go across the world and see what it really is like at the top level. So I think I was at Sheffield United for probably about 2 weeks, and then I was at Club Bruges for maybe nearly 3 weeks, and I was training there and playing with their sort of under 18s, under 23 squads. And I think for the first time, just seeing how dialed in all the players were, and their focus and everything they were doing, from gym to obviously nutrition to how they looked after themselves on and off the pitch, that's something that I didn't really ever consider. And having played in the NPL, I guess there's that sort of notion that, yeah, it is semi-professional. And I was sort of used to seeing, obviously we train 3 times a week at NPL level, and then anything else is sort of up to you. Whereas it's sort of ingrained over there that, you eat, sleep, it's everything that you're thinking about and everything that you're preparing for is for that training session and for that game. So I think just the seriousness of, how every single player sort of took on their role was like sort of hit me like a truck.
Yeah, I think they.
Sorry, guys.
No, I was going to say, obviously touching on that, the players there and stuff like that. I think it's part of their persona and their mentality, especially overseas, is that even if they're playing at a semi-professional level or at a youth level, I think they look at themselves as a footballer and they carry themselves that way to obviously make sure they're preparing themselves for whatever the next step may be. And that's probably maybe a mentality difference to compared to some of the kids that we got here, because we are very fortunate of the options we do have here as a society in Australia with our studies and sports and whatnot. But I think it's that mentality that they carry themselves as, no, I'm a footballer. This is who I am.
Yeah, 100%. Like, just on the back of that, I'd just say that, like, I don't want to get into the discussion about having a national second division and everything like that, but there's obviously so many more divisions over there and so many more leagues that it's so much more hungry over there. Like, at every level, everyone wants to make it. And that's not saying that it's easy to sort of make it to the top here, but there's sort of, not as many hurdles, I guess, in terms of, clubs that you might have to jump from and impress, certain, levels and things like that. So I think, yeah, as you said, the mentality of the players over there from such a young age, they realize that and they understand that.
I was going to ask, I remember, even just being on my level, obviously we didn't reach to the level that you might have, but I remember even nerves going to trials even here in Australia. So I can only imagine the feeling that you would have had at such a young age, actually going over there and trying to make that step and make that that situation happen.
Yeah, definitely. I think, to be honest, I just went into it not expecting anything. It was just such a foreign environment to me. I just wanted to see what it was about. And then it took me a few, days in the beginning to acclimatize and then realize, okay, like, I'm here now. Now I can show what I'm about. But the beginning is just sort of understanding how everything works. And obviously, every player that's played overseas will tell you the exact same thing. The environment and the level it's just different.
Yeah, it probably would have been a bit of a bonus to actually not have that language barrier as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think, obviously, it was a bit weird in Belgium. Like, you had a lot of foreign players there at the time. So it was a bit of a factory. But in England and at Sheffield, yeah, definitely, like there was no barriers. I was very clear on what I had to do and what they expected of me. So
quickly transitioning, obviously, fast forward a little bit now, you're obviously at Western United, settled in quite well there. Just curious into sort of transition into training situations there. So I'm just curious to know, and I think some people might be as well, in relation to goalkeeper training and then whole squad training. How often is that separated on your training schedule? Are you with the first team too often with everyone in together, or?
yeah, I should preface by saying it's not just sort of, Western's methods. It's kind of, sort of something I've been used to as a goalkeeper coming through the ranks in the A-League. It is a bit lonely at times.
Right.
You do spend a lot of time with the goalkeepers. The majority of your session is done with the goalkeeping coach and, whoever is the second, third goalkeeper at the club. So when you are integrated with the team, it definitely helps and it definitely makes you feel less lonely, but it would probably be the minority of the session. So the majority of the time, yeah, you're working on a lot of technical aspects of the position.
And how about in the change rooms? Because obviously, going around different clubs and whatnot, in different change rooms, you probably have little cliques and stuff like that. Is it more the position, like goalkeepers will stick together in the change rooms and the defenders? is it a bit like that with position-wise in the change rooms and who you sit next to?
I think as well, it's specific to the clubs, right? Like when I was at Sydney, I spent 7 seasons at Sydney. So that's a long time. And it's something that I'm negotiating with even right now. Like I'm playing a bit more at Sydney. I was sort of obviously second keeper there for a long time. And there are cliques definitely, but I think it's not specific to the positions. Like I think a lot of, it's probably more a generational thing, if anything. So the younger players, stick together, and then the older ones who have families and kids and things like that. It's just natural for them to have, more commonality and everything like that.
Yeah, so I remember, this comment's probably going to be worthless because I can't remember exactly which coach it was now, but years ago there was a coach in the Premier League, and he used to try and set his change room up like he'd set his teams up the field. Like you had your keepers, your defenders, your midfielders, and your forwards, and make them sit because you're obviously playing next to each other on the field as such. And he wanted them to be kind of together in the change rooms as well.
Yeah. No, I think look, at the end of the day, there's no sort of wrong way to set it all up. I think there's benefits and things to how that would work. But I think, naturally, I think, probably for the midfielders and attackers, it's easier to bond, right? Because they're training every day together. They need to have that sort of chemistry on and off the field, I guess. Otherwise, it can be, grueling on the field. Whereas goalkeepers, I would just say it's something that you have to be resilient. You have to be okay with sort of a standalone type of guy. Not that defines you, but a lot of the time, you got to be sort of conscious of that.
Yeah, and I'll perfectly segue into, like you said, you spent many years at Sydney FC. Obviously, you had to bide your time behind Redmayne, who was number one keeper. Knowing how super competitive, fighting for positions in the in the starting 11 would be for any position, it must be so difficult for a goalkeeper. Like, obviously, there's only one keeper. You can play with 2 strikers. You can play with multiple centre-backs, multiple midfielders, but there's only going to be one goalkeeper. Like, how's that, like, obviously coming to terms with knowing that, you're probably going to be number 2 or you're going into a club going to be number 1 and you've got to hold that spot?
Yeah, it is grueling. Like, that's what I said. You have to be, you have to have a strong will and you have to obviously have support groups around you and everything like that. At the end of the day, it's what you want out of the game. So what I'd say in response to that is basically at Sydney FC, like, yes, it was frustrating to spend so much time on the bench, but I have to be honest, I learnt so much from Redders. And that's sort of the direction I took it. Like at some level, I knew that, he had seniority. He was hitting form, like he did so well with the national team, and I just had to kind of, obviously, as you said, bide my time, but I also had to sort of pick up on, everything that, like how he conducted himself, how he trained, how he spoke to players, how he took care of himself. So I feel like if I was told in the beginning how long that process would take, that maybe if I had my time again, I would have tried to be a bit more ambitious, but that you live and you learn, right? So I think in the end, I learned a lot of lessons, not just from that club, but also the goalkeepers who played ahead of me.
Because it would be tough, even the opportunities you do get on the field, because like it could come sporadically, whether through injury, suspension, whatever it may be. That all of a sudden you've gone from not playing for, could be potentially months, to all of a sudden, hey, you're the main man. Go.
100%.
Is that difficult to try and get to grips with?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the sort of quirks of this position is that, with any other position, you got to take into account form and fitness, and you can't, you can't actually perform at that level having spent that amount of time on the bench or out. Whereas for goalkeeping, I think that you spend so much time in training trying to emulate what happens in a game. And as we all know, like you could play 90 minutes and make 2 or 3 saves and that's your job done. And that's what's expected of you. So I think goalkeeping is, a unique position where you have to sort of prepare yourself for that inevitability where you might be thrusted in after 26 games and then you're expected to basically have a clean sheet. So it just comes with the position.
You had mentioned just now the highs and lows of your position and even sort of football in general. So you've pretty much done what, a lot of kids and people sort of dream of, and you've made it to the top level, especially in Australia. So obviously it comes with that is a lot of pressure. How do you sometimes deal with that pressure, with the highs and lows that obviously come with it?
I think, yeah, definitely it's something I was conscious of in the beginning. Like when I was coming through, like I made my debut at 18 at Central Coast. And from then until probably about my early 20s, I was really conscious of, not making errors, making sure that I was doing everything in training to be up for selection and things like that. And it takes its mental toll, like it really does. And as I've gotten older, that doesn't mean that my mentality, towards training and games and everything and such has changed, but I'm a bit more open and I'm a bit more calm with my preparation and knowing that if I've put in the work come weekend, that's all I can ask of myself. So I think the pressure is something that I'm just trying to embrace. And as I got older, like obviously as well, like this is my second season playing regular football. So it's actually a blessing. Like I just view it as something that I'm so, fortunate to be given this opportunity and something that I just want to build on. I don't want to get stuck in thinking about, what could be and what could go wrong.
As you mentioned at the top of we mentioned at the top of the episode that you've been the first keeper that we've had on the show. You mentioned about high pressure situations, high pressure scenarios. We're always hearing about obviously penalties. The striker, the 90th minute, big pressure, trying to win or equalise the game. As a goalkeeper, do you feel that pressure when you're preparing to obviously save that penalty or cop that penalty?
I definitely feel it, and to be honest, like it's something that as a keeper you want to chase that feeling. You want to be in that high pressure situation. Obviously, in my opinion, there's probably more pressure on the striker to score, and I'm only there to sort of thwart any efforts that him or the team have. The scorelines is something that obviously I do consider pressure wise, but it's something that, as I said earlier, I embrace. Like it's only something that I can gain from.
So strikers come through 1-on-1. You've taken his legs out purely because you know what, I want a penalty to save.
I wouldn't say I'm looking for it, but definitely, as a keeper, like that situation is something. It's weird to admit it, but it is something that you are sort of dreaming of. That to save a penalty or to come up trumps for the team. So.
Yeah, you have to. And you have to impose that confidence as well, especially on the strike. Because like you said, 100%, everyone thinks it's a lot easier to score a penalty than it is to save one, which means the pressure's all on the penalty taker. So you want to still impose that confidence on towards them to go, I'm not conceding a goal. You've got to you've got to put this into the top corner or into the bottom corner if you're going to score this goal.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, to be honest, something that I should be working on is sort of the pre-routine before a penalty. Because that's something that really, in my time as a goalkeeper, I've seen the evolution of the antics before the penalty is taken, and I haven't really gotten to the stage where I've come up with any routine. So it's something that I'll obviously get better at over time.
Yeah, the water bottle out with the penalty, take the directions.
Yeah, 100%.
I actually saw a clip of yours not too long ago. I think it might have been when you were at Sydney, and it was the penalty that you saved against Adelaide.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, buzzing.
Yeah.
That was sort of 90th minute towards the end of the game.
Ibusuki. Save by Heward-Belle, and the hero of recent weeks for Adelaide.
Right?
Yeah, so that obviously felt really nice, and that's a good memory to have. I think obviously the goalkeeper coach pulled me aside before that game, and he helped me with video and understanding that this was the side that striker tend to hit and his body shape before he hit the ball. So all that work that goes in before the game, obviously not many people and fans consider, but it's really important.
Yeah.
That work, and obviously the studying the research on their penalty takers and which ways they go, how they strike the ball, is that coming from the coach and the goalkeeper coach that you sit down with them and you work through, or is that purely on you to do that kind of work?
It's an odd pressure because like they do their homework and they definitely like help you, in the lead up to the match, saying that this is his preferred spot of where he wants to go. And so it leaves the keeper in a tough dilemma because it's kind of like, do you go off the work that they've basically studied over all week, or do you trust your instincts? So it's something that you have to negotiate on the spot.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's a bit like was it 2014 World Cup when Van Gaal took off was it I think Boron Krul for the penalty shootout?
Yeah.
Do you think a coach can get that kind of a vibe and go, oh, this is the way the game's going, I want a different goalkeeper on here for the penalties? Because I'm pretty sure even when Australia qualified back for the Germany World Cup, Schwarzer was going to get taken off for Kalaj.
Yeah.
But then Emerton came off with cramps, so he couldn't actually make that change. Then obviously, thankfully, they didn't make that change.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like I've seen it so many times, and I've seen the other way as well, where like obviously Kepa's a good example of just not wanting to come off either to penalties. So,
I remember that. Yeah, that was wild. I remember that.
Yeah.
I think would you be nervous to scream at your coach and tell him that you're not coming off the pitch? You guys already got the sign off to make the substitute with the numbers, and you're not coming off the pitch.
Yeah, I know. I think that's a really good example of like just how you're going in the game. Like that's just a perfect example of your mentality. Like he's obviously just feels like a monster in that moment, but he's going against everything that the coach wants.
Talking about obviously like pressures and penalty taking rituals and stuff like that. Any pre-game superstitions, pre-game rituals, good luck charms that you have before a game?
To be honest, like I've thought about it. Not really. Obviously, I do sort of try to wear the same grip socks as much as I can. I sort of keep them preserved just for game day, and so I won't change, that aspect. But I think it's probably, to be honest, I'm a bad flyer. Like I'm a nervous flyer. So if we have an away game, just texting my parents that I love them and everything like that before we go, that's a must. Like, that's an absolute must for me.
Yeah. Playing over in New Zealand, so I'll get the boat. Don't worry about it.
Oh, trust me, if I had that option, I'd take it 100% of the time.
That's because players are weird. I mean, even me before a game, like you do your warm up and whatnot, and you walk out, and after the toss of the coin and the teams line up, and you go and spread out, and the couple of balls come out, people are knocking the balls around and stuff like that. I hated touching the ball right before the game. The seconds before kickoff, I hated touching the ball. I just wanted to play. I've done my warm up. I've trained all week. I know how to pass the ball. I don't get a feel of the ball. I've been doing it all my life. Yeah. Let's just play. I'll just walk away. I wouldn't go touch a ball.
Yeah, no, actually, I should have mentioned that earlier. That's reminded me. So, like in my warm up, the last thing that we do is like shot stopping. So obviously, I don't know if you go to an A-League game, you'll see basically every team does it, where like they finish the warm up with everyone basically it's just a shooting gallery, and I want to make sure every time I head into the sheds that I've made one decent save. So you'll see, like I may have caught like 15 in a row, but I'm not going into sheds until I've saved one. So yeah, that's probably my pre-match routine.
Actually, I've always wanted to know, because obviously everyone wants to shoot a goal. Everyone wants to have shots at goal and stuff like that. Whether you felt like this as a kid or even still now, when the coach goes, get in goal, we're going to have about 1,000 shots at you. Are you just like, Come on, give us a break. Like all the strikers and midfielders going, buzzing, doing volleys and shots and this and that, and you're just sitting there going, "Come on, get up! Next one's coming at you."
Nah, early on in my career, definitely. Like, I wanted to join them and just start whacking them at goal. But the older I got, like, obviously, the more serious I took the position, and that's just my job. So
they start shooting, you're like, take me back to the goalkeeper training.
Exactly.
You need Adam shooting now. Yeah, just the way he shoots, mate.
Handbags.
I was about to say, James, when you're saying warming up, we're not doing much of that these days, that's for sure.
Not anymore.
No, definitely not.
Not anymore.
Did you have any, mentors, or even before transitioning into goals, or even when you just did, or even now to this day, are there any specific keepers that come to mind that really excite you the way they play, or you try to make your game similar to theirs, attributes that they might have?
Yeah, I think, for the first part of that question, in terms of mentors, like, that's why I didn't want to speak on the Schwarzer-Kalak sort of intervention that we had there, because he coached me as a young keeper coming through. So I had plenty of really good goalkeeper coaches to learn from. So I had, obviously Spider in the beginning. I had Ron Corrie. I'm not sure if you've heard of him, but he coached Spider. So he's quite old. I had him at Wanderers. Had John Crawley, who's the current Socceroos goalkeeper coach. So, and obviously Michael Theo now, who's had an outstanding, career as a player. So I've had really good coaches, and they all sort of teach different aspects of the game differently. So I think I've sort of tried to grab a bit from all of them and sort of better myself and, shape it my way. In terms of players now that I look up to, it's kind of sad because my favourite keeper is David De Gea. And he's obviously without a club at the moment, but he's someone that I've always looked up to and I've always admired his game. Just his ability to, shot stopping, obviously, number one. But the impact that he had at that club, for me, is probably the best keeper in the world.
Yeah, I think people forget the kind of struggle, especially early on in his United career, the struggles that he did have, and he had to overcome, obviously, with his size, his presence, and stuff like that. And then once he turned that around, he was an animal in goals.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of people don't consider, there's different styles of keepers, and for me, he's an outstanding shot stopper. But the amount of times he came in clutch for that club, like some of the saves that he made at crucial moments, like everyone can sort of have their own opinion about what styles are the best for this position, and they can criticize him personally, but I think you have to admit how many times he came up big for that club. So.
Yeah.
Do you support a team in England?
Yeah. So that obviously doesn't matter. I love De Gea, but I go for Chelsea.
There you go.
Wow.
Since a young kid.
There you go.
So obviously came for another disappointing season this year.
Definitely, I'm not expecting much. Even just going off the pre-season, it hasn't looked too good.
And then you got City round one, which doesn't actually City never start off the season well anyway, so to be all right. Chelsea win that game 3-0. Kukurea hat trick.
That's what we're all looking for.
We usually have a third member who's obviously not on the episode today, but he did have a question for you. And it's been, I think it's pretty well known around football, and I believe in this as well, that if you're a goalkeeper, you'll be different. You're a different species. And then put it into Stephen's words, he wants to ask a question. What makes you so weird?
I think I'm the wrong person to ask that question, to be honest. I think everyone else plays with it. Yeah. I don't know, to be honest. Yeah. I don't know. You'd have to ask people. Yeah, you'd have to ask people that I've played with. Because, and to be honest, I'm thick-skinned, so I wouldn't listen to them anyway. I'm sure there's something about me that just doesn't stand out. So, yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, all the keepers I'll grow up playing with and I'll play with over the years, the best guys. But there's always something about them. You're like, this is why you're a goalkeeper. I probably could have jumped in goals myself anyway. Well, I think, Adam, as it comes to that special time.
Yeah, it's that time, I think.
So,
let's do it.
The big question that we always like to finish off with, Tom, and I'll reiterate, obviously, the coach's son nomination. So essentially what we want to hear from you is, who's your coach's son nomination? You had a bit of time to think about it, and also why. Why are they your coach's son nomination?
I think, look, I'd probably have to say, having been at Western now for a season and a little bit, probably Ben Garuccio. Obviously,
how good is that?
Podcast as well, so I've sort of murkied the water a little bit at the moment with that call. But I think, he's a great laugh. He's great in the change room. He's obviously had a great career himself, and if you want to talk about that scorpion kick, that's pretty special. So I'd probably have to say him.
Yeah, Ben. How good, Ben. We're going to have to get you on for an episode now. You're up.
I've instigated the partnership now.
Absolutely.
It's like the neck nominator, with that trend that was happening years ago. It's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
So good. Well, thanks for coming on again, Tom. I hope your first podcast experience wasn't too bad for you.
No, it was sweet. Honestly, guys, I was really honoured, and I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, of course, man. It was a great episode. We obviously wish you the best of luck for the season coming up as well. Down the line, we'd love to have you back on again.
No, 100%.
Be a great time.
100%. Sweet. Thanks, guys.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course,
we'll watch you, mate. Don't worry. We're following you.
That's the best. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. That's another episode of The Coach's Son Parks the Bus. Tune in for more. We've got a lot coming up. We've got some great guests coming on soon. So thanks again, guys. Chat soon.
This was not